I am impressed by how quickly these episodes are moving. We're only on episode 2 of Shinobu Masado, and I was told there would be 6 episodes, but now I feel like they could easily finish in 4. I don't want things to end quickly, but I also can't say they aren't giving us a lot. This episode was jam-packed with dialogue, text, and visuals to analyze for days. Unfortunately, I need to get to sleep, so I'll have to finish the script as quickly as I can. During the scene with Kambaru and Higasa, there should have been a lot of exposition. In any other series, it would have gotten boring to just hear the two girls fill Araragi and us in. But of course, Monogatari keeps things dynamic with plenty for us to look at. I liked how they had Kambaru sitting atop a stack of books before a row of microphones, like a real celebrity dispensing cliched wisdom that we would expect from such idols of physical fitness. As the viewer, we can kind of see how that might have been irritating to those who looked up to her. Don't we all get a little tired of idols talking only about how much fun they have while pursuing their passion, not really acknowledging the struggle and sacrifice it takes to get to the top? Another clever piece of symbolism I noticed was that when the girls finish explaining, they literally pass Araragi the balls. That is, they pass the case over for him to handle. Not only does the situation with the basketball team serve the plot, but once again, it's repeated that the internal problems are due to the twisted mentality of the first and second year members, which apply to our theme. It is said that they are joined not by a strong sense of solidarity, but collective responsibility. Interestingly, this also reflects the complex nature of Shinobu and Araragi's bond, which is particularly important to establish this episode. I would say that their master-servant relationship has a mixed sense of both, either feeling arising depending on the circumstances. Enough on the theme of legacy for now, though. I already talked a bit about it last time, and of course it will continue to be prevalent throughout this entire arc. Let's focus on Shinobu instead. We finally get her appearance this episode, and of course it's marked with donuts. Araragi's mission is to keep her at bay while Gaien investigates, since Gaien clearly knows Shinobu won't be able to sit still if her former master is involved in their case. And thanks to Araragi's desperation, we get to see Catboy Araragi and Prince Araragi. Okay, I needed a moment, sorry. The prince reference was not lost on me since we've just recently seen Acerola Bon Appetit. Back then, I thought that the one who was destined to break Princess Beauty's curse, the prince that Deathtopia couldn't be, was probably alluding to Araragi. And I feel like that idea has been further reinforced with this imagery. Thank you, Shaft. While Shinobu reminisces about her master and explains the nature of failed vampirifications, we are given another hint about the culprit behind these mummified girls' cases. Recall that the reason Kishat destroyed the world was because she was devastated by the loss of Araragi in her timeline. This agony could reveal the current mindset of the vampire Gaien is hunting down. In the novel, there's a particular play on words. Zetsubo, despair, and setsubo, an earnest desire. Recall our first meeting with Harimaze Kie, Patient Zero, the representative of the girls' basketball team, as we are introduced to it. She's filled with both despair and an earnest desire to end her current situation. Could that be why an oddity appeared before her and led to this circumstance? Shinobu, however, describes her other self's behavior as reckless, and she attributes that quality to her former master as well. But I'd say we should trust our own memories more here. Speaking of Shinobu's recollection of Zetopia, the way we see her master during this portion is so different from how we saw her during Acerola Bon Appetit. She looks more confident, strong, and formidable. Is this just Shinobu's personal filter or Araragi's imagination? And why does Zetopia view herself so differently? But we can shelve those questions for discussion in the comments. As Shinobu wonders why she's suddenly talking about Zetopia, Konkon, Mononoke makes a surprise appearance through unconventional means, as usual. It's clever how we are given visual hints of what she's been up to during this time, managing Tsukihi, as we saw in Tsukihi Undo. And she does not only introduce herself, but also Hachikuji into the story. The little girls in Araragi's life are having a reunion. I liked the callback to their time together before, playing children's games. Obviously, it's not necessarily what they're doing as they have this conversation, but it is and was always a clever way to keep the visuals on the screen interesting as they bantered. Another reason I'm glad that Ononoki appeared is because we got to see Araragi reveal his true degenerate nature by offering her a seat on his lap at the first opportunity. Ononoki simply ignoring him was hilarious. Araragi's degeneracy does not stop with Ononoki, and I'm glad they showed us the hilarious sight of a 6-year-old Shinobu in a booster seat in Araragi's infamous Beetle. All of that is set up though for the main event this episode. And the scenes at Kirahebi's shrine just continue to ramp up more excitement. I swear, this episode moved so fast. They're really cutting right into the meat of the story, so to speak. First off, Hachikuji is a national treasure. I thought she was very clever to invite Araragi over in the way she did, and the spotlight on her is a hilarious way to show how she orchestrated her appearance before his arrival. But the highlight of her entrance is definitely her Kamimashita gag. I'm so glad we get a full segment dedicated to it, though it might have been longer in the book. I also like how hers and Shinobu's relationship seems to have mellowed out, seeing as she involves Shinobu in the gag this time. The reveal of Dektopia as the last addition to Araragi's little girl harem. Oh my god, I gotta stop making these jokes before people start to misunderstand me. Anyway, it comes as a real surprise. Even though I feel like we were being led to this natural conclusion with each girl we were meeting along the way. It also now throws a wrench into the investigation, seeing as the prime suspect, even with very little evidence to back it up, seems an incredibly unlikely one. But every detective mystery novel has to have its twists and turns, right? I think the biggest twist this episode, though, is where Araragi ends up in the after credits scene. But let's talk about that next time. I actually want to focus on how Araragi continues to show us how unreliable his narration is. When he wakes up in heaven and not hell, he is told by Princess Beauty, "You're not as evil as you think you are." Earlier in the story so far, we've seen him try to remind us that he had a bad reputation in high school. He was well known only because he was the closest thing Naoetsu had to a delinquent. Surely everyone was only gossiping about him because they were afraid of him, or they were mocking him. But at the end of their exchange, Higasa asks Araragi if he has a girlfriend. Surely if you asked Araragi himself, he would say that she was teasing him. But I feel like he's actually underestimating the appeal of a delinquent boy to a girl attending a prep high school. Just saying, my boy is the biggest liar, but that's why we love him. Before I leave, I want to just express my appreciation for 2 more random things that made me smile this episode. First, the return of a familiar background melody during the conversation with Shinobu in the bedroom. And second, Shinobu's "you can't fight blood" comment was incredibly clever given the nature of their relationship. Not to mention the implications of that on the whole master-servant theme that we've got going on here. Alright, time to go replay Catboy Koyomin. Bye!